Tonight, when you step into the shower, you will do something your great-great-grandmother probably never did in her entire life. You will stand under a stream of hot, clean, treated water, work a synthetic lather through your hair, drag a fluoride brush across your teeth, and walk out smelling like lavender and mint. 8 minutes. You will not think about it at all. Now go back. Not a few generations. Go back 50,000 years. A world with no plumbing, no soap on a shelf, no toothbrush by the sink, no clean towel. The nearest water might be a walk away. Winter meant weeks with nothing but ice. And ask the question almost nobody asks. How did they stay clean? Not in the vague sense of, well, they probably swam sometimes. In the actual, practical, daily sense. What did ancient humans do about the biological reality of living in a body that produces sweat and oil and waste, constantly, without pause, in conditions that made modern hygiene physically impossible? The answer is not what you expect. Ancient humans were not passively filthy, waiting for modernity to rescue them. They were systematic, inventive, and in several documented cases, more effective than you might believe. Some of what they discovered works so well that scientists are still studying it today. Some of it reveals something deeper than just dirt and soap. It reveals how cleanliness has always been tangled up with who you are, who you belong to, and what you owe to the people around you. Start with the skin. Because the first thing to understand about your skin is that it was never designed to be washed the way modern people wash it. Your skin is a self-managing organ. It produces sebum, an oily secretion from glands beneath the surface that serves as a natural moisturizer and a chemical barrier against pathogens. It hosts a microbiome, a community of organisms that in a healthy, undisturbed state actively suppresses harmful bacteria. It continuously sheds its outermost layer of dead cells in a process called desquamation, physically carrying surface contamination away as it goes. In a person who has never used soap, that system runs at full capacity. The sebum builds up. The microbial balance is different. The surface smells unfamiliar to a modern nose. But it is not simply deteriorating. It is a different equilibrium. And it is the equilibrium your ancestors lived in for the vast majority of human evolutionary history. The dermatologist Robin Buhagiar has written about what she calls the soap paradox. Aggressive daily cleansing with modern products disrupts the skin's protective chemistry so completely that the skin then requires that same cleansing to maintain baseline function. Strip the natural oils, and the skin overproduces them. The skin, in other words, was not built for what modern people do to it every morning. Ancient humans worked with the skin's own systems, and the primary technology they used was oil. The principle is as sound as chemistry gets. Like dissolves like. Oil dissolves other oils and fat-soluble substances from the skin's surface in a way that water alone simply cannot. Apply oil to the skin, work it across the surface, and it binds to the sebum layer along with everything trapped in it. Then scrape it away, and the contamination comes with it. The skin underneath is cleaner, not stripped. This was not a lucky guess by one culture. It was independently arrived at across the entire ancient world. The ancient Greeks formalized it into a daily ritual. Athletes at the gymnasium applied olive oil to their entire bodies before exercise. After training, they used a curved metal instrument called a strigil to scrape the oil off, pulling sweat, dirt, and dead skin cells away with it. This was not vanity. It was sound chemical logic that these athletes could not have articulated in modern terms, but had arrived at through careful observation. The strigil scrapings from Roman bathhouse floors were valuable enough to be collected and sold as a medicinal skin treatment, which tells you something about Roman commercial ingenuity and something slightly alarming about the bathhouse experience. But oil-based cleaning was not a Mediterranean invention. In sub-Saharan Africa, plant oils and animal fats cleaned and conditioned skin. In the Arctic, where water-based washing was physically impossible for months at a time, the Inuit used oil from marine mammals as their primary cleaning medium, applying it and scraping it away with shaped bone tools. In South Asia, sesame and mustard oils served the same function. The specific ingredient varied by region. The principle was universal. Water, by contrast, is less powerful than you might assume. Cold water with no surfactant is quite limited in what it can clean. It removes water-soluble materials and rinses loose surface debris. But it does not dissolve or lift the sebum-bound contamination that traps most dirt against the skin. This is exactly why soap was invented. Without that chemistry, ancient water bathing worked best when paired with abrasion. Fine river sand, crushed pumice, rough plant material were used across cultures to physically scrub away the surface layer of dead cells and trapped contamination. Warm water helped too, because heat softens the sebum layer and makes it easier to dislodge. Stones heated in fire and transferred into water-filled vessels appear in the Neolithic archaeological record across multiple continents. The principle of heating water to make washing more effective was not a modern insight. It was ancient common sense. Soap itself has a longer history than most people realize, though its ancient forms looked and smelled nothing like the bar by your sink. The earliest documented soap-like substance appears in Mesopotamia around 4,500 years ago. A Sumerian clay tablet describes a mixture of animal fat and wood ash used for washing wool and possibly for body cleaning. The chemistry is real. Wood ash produces potassium carbonate. Potassium carbonate is an alkali. An alkali reacting with fat produces saponification. The product is, chemically speaking, soap. Whoever figured this out, whether through deliberate experiment or accidentally when fat dripped into cooking ash, stumbled upon one of the most useful chemical reactions in human history. Ancient Egyptian texts from around 1550 BCE describe a cleaning substance made from animal and vegetable oils mixed with alkaline salts. The same natron used to prepare bodies for mummification was used by the living to wash themselves. The Egyptians drew no distinction between the purifying of the dead and the purifying of the living. Ancient Rome industrialized soap production. The city of Pompeii, frozen at the moment of Vesuvius's eruption in 79 CE, contains the remains of a full commercial soap factory. This was manufactured at scale, distributed commercially, used across the Roman world. The Celts of ancient Europe were noted by Roman writers as producing high-quality soap from animal fat and plant ash, not only for cleaning, but for styling their hair into dramatic shapes before battle. This is either evidence that aesthetic self-expression is a universal human impulse, or evidence that going into combat looking terrifying was a tactical consideration that extended to the hair. Now to hair, because this is a separate challenge entirely. The scalp contains a particularly dense concentration of sebaceous glands. The oil they produce is functional, conditioning the hair and protecting the scalp, but it accumulates, traps debris, and creates conditions certain fungi find hospitable. Ancient humans addressed this through a combination of mechanical grooming and botanical chemistry more sophisticated than you might expect. The comb is one of the oldest tools in the archaeological record. Fine-toothed combs from bone, ivory, shell, and wood appear across multiple cultures from at least 5,000 years ago. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar, whose work on primate social behavior reshaped how we understand human sociality, has argued that human language may have partly evolved as a scalable replacement for physical grooming. A way to maintain social bonds with larger groups than you could physically comb in a day. The comb is not just a hygiene tool, it is evidence of the connection between physical care and social belonging. Beyond combing, ancient hair washing relied on saponins, naturally occurring compounds found in a wide range of plants that produce a lather when agitated with water and function as mild surfactants. They bridge the oil and water interface, lifting contamination from the hair shaft without stripping the hair completely. The plants containing usable saponins were identified and exploited for cleaning independently across virtually every inhabited region of the world. Soapwort across Europe and Central Asia. Soap bark from the quillaja tree used across South America. Soap berries used across South and Southeast Asia. Yucca root used by multiple Native American peoples. Shikakai in South Asia, whose name in Hindi translates roughly to fruit for the hair, remains an ingredient in contemporary Ayurvedic hair care products today. The fact that it has survived as a commercial ingredient into the 21st century tells you something about how well it works. Now to oral hygiene, because this is where the gap between ancient practice and modern assumption is most dramatic and most surprising. Ancient humans did not have toothbrushes. What they had was the chew stick, a twig from a specific plant species, chewed at one end until the fibers splay into a rough brush-like structure. This is not a primitive approximation of a toothbrush. It is a genuine oral hygiene tool. The most extensively studied species is Salvadora persica, the toothbrush tree, which grows across sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. Its twigs contain antibacterial mustard oil compounds, silica as a mild abrasive, sodium bicarbonate, which neutralizes oral acid, and tannins with antimicrobial activity. The dental researcher Nabil Al-Lafi, reviewing the clinical literature, found that multiple controlled studies have demonstrated comparable effectiveness between Salvadora persica chew sticks and modern toothbrushes for mechanical plaque removal. The World Health Organization has formally recognized chew sticks as an effective oral hygiene tool. This is not a marginal finding. It is the WHO confirming that a technology used in essentially the same form for thousands of years is clinically effective by contemporary standards. Ancient Egyptian texts reference chew sticks. Early Islamic hygiene guidelines recommend miswak, the Arabic term for the same practice, in texts compiled over 1,000 years ago. The practice continues today across sub-Saharan Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and South Asia, not as a historical curiosity, as a practical daily hygiene tool. The communal dimension of ancient hygiene may be the most revealing part of this story. Cleanliness was never purely a private concern. It was always social. The Roman thermae were not about getting clean the way a morning shower is about getting clean. They were social institutions. The baths of Caracalla, completed in 216 CE, accommodated an estimated 1,600 bathers simultaneously and included exercise areas, libraries, gardens, and meeting spaces alongside the bathing rooms. Admission was essentially free. The Roman state understood that the baths served a public health function and subsidized access to make regular bathing a near-universal daily practice. The social historian Garrett Fagan describes the thermae as among the most important civic institutions in Roman urban life. The Islamic hammam tradition that developed from Roman bathing culture spread across the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia, and deepened the social function. The hammam was not just a place to wash. It was a place for community, for ritual, for marking life transitions. Its architecture, domed steam rooms with filtered light and marble surfaces, was deliberately designed to make washing a pleasurable experience. If cleanliness is embedded in something people actively want to do, they will seek it out. The hammam was a technology for building the habit of regular hygiene through reward rather than obligation. The management of human waste was another dimension of ancient hygiene, with stakes nothing less than the survival of early cities. The historian William McNeill estimated that infectious disease spread through contaminated water and inadequate waste disposal was among the primary demographic constraints on urban population growth throughout antiquity. The Indus Valley civilization, flourishing around 2600 BCE in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, had what may be the most advanced urban sanitation infrastructure of the ancient world. Individual household toilet facilities connected to covered brick-lined sewers running beneath the streets. The archaeologist Shireen Ratnagar has noted this system was more systematically maintained than the water supply systems of comparable cities in the ancient Mediterranean. Many cities in the developing world did not reach equivalent sanitation infrastructure until the 20th century. Ancient Rome had the Cloaca Maxima, one of the oldest surviving structures in Rome, a covered sewer originally built in the 6th century BCE to drain the city into the Tiber River. They did not need to understand germ theory to observe that communities with better waste management had lower rates of devastating disease. They acted on that observation. The infrastructure followed. Here is what all of it adds up to. Ancient humans were not passive about cleanliness. They scraped their skin with oil